All right, the Reds, this is Talking Reds, and with me today on Wednesday's Talking Reds, I've got James Sutton. Lovely to see your face, mate. Nice to have some human interaction. We are both still in our isolated office spaces, which is, your house.
Yeah.
We are both frustrated Liverpool fans and worried human beings. It is possible to be both at the same time. We're going to start with something lighter today, which is Virgil van Dijk went on Twitter yesterday, and he was a funny guy. He is a funny guy. We were lucky enough to interview him in Qatar, and he was a funny guy then as well. If you subscribe to the Anfield app, you can still go back and listen to that interview. And he was a lovely fella as well. So when I seen that he was doing a Q&A on Twitter, I thought it's going to be good value, this. And people were throwing in the questions early. He had a big, long list of stuff to work through, and he was just picking out the ones he liked, obviously. I think the standout one that most of you maybe have seen, which was quality all round, really, was Jamie Carragher sent him a message saying, what former LFC defender in the Premier League era did you base your game on? Now, obviously, everyone has a good laugh at that because, he wants him to come back and say, oh, you, Jamie. Virgil came back with, tough one, probably Sammy Hippier.
You've got to expect that kind of stuff if you throw a shout like that out there. He must have been expecting it.
There was some other stuff on there as well. It said his favourite Liverpool goal was against Manchester United. His favourite animated film, was The Lion King. The hardest person he's ever had to mark was Sergio Aguero. And James assures me as well that he said he likes chocolate.
He's a big fan of Cadbury's chocolate, apparently. Whether that's included in his dietary plan, I don't know. He also said that. The one that stood out for me was who's winning a 100-metre sprint between him, Joe Gomez, Trent Alexander-Arnold, and Robbo, and he said either Joe or me. So I'd have thought Trent might have been with a shout there, but turns out he's not as quick as we think.
Maybe he's blagging. He said his perfect centre-half partner was Joe Gomez as well. We know about their man love for each other already, which is absolutely wonderful. You lucky guy, Joe. He also, I think there's a question as well around where would you play if you wasn't a centre half, and he said number 10.
Did he?
Yeah.
Yeah, you'll take that all day. Get the big man up front.
Imagine it. It'd be glorious. I mean, I'd watch that. I'd pay 50 quid just to watch that.
He'd be a nightmare for defenders. An absolute nightmare. The size of the bastard.
He is huge. I mean, as I say, we met him out there, and I'm just under 6 foot, and I was like,
"What is he about? What was he about 6'3", 6'4" or something?"
About 6'4", I think. Yeah.
Jesus.
And obviously, like, But then the nicest fella in the world as well. I mean, Andy at the time was like a bit like, oh, and said to me, he went, I'm a bit nervous, like interviewing you. And he just sort of like sat back in this big chair and just went like, I'll be the easiest interview you've ever done.
Man, it's so lucky that, things like that get to happen for the Anfield Wrap and stuff, man. It's really cool. It's really cool, man.
Superb. Love it. Just hope it can continue. Through all this madness and the latest on the madness. Obviously, all the time people are being interviewed. Football content carries on. Football discussion carries on, and a lot of people are glad of that. There's a very good interview today on The Athletic with Wigan Athletic manager Paul Cook. Now, for those who don't know, Paul is very much a Scouser, possibly one of the Scousest men alive. He's also a lovely fella, and he comes across that way in the interview. He's talking about that. He talks in there about, solving everything around football right now isn't the most important thing in the world. He said he's been doing some volunteer stuff. He's encouraging his players to do the same. And he's like, in general, the vibe should be try and help each other, which of course we can all get right behind. He does talk about both Wigan's situation and Liverpool's situation in this whole what will happen next with football madness, really. And I found it interesting because Wigan, if they made the season null and void, well, Wigan have stayed up. because Wigan currently are 2 points above the relegation zone. Everyone's on 37 games in the Championship, 9 to play. And Wigan had a decent little mini run, got themselves out of trouble, but they could easily be pulled back in. So it's kind of in his self-interest, in a way, to say, yeah, fuck it, we're all right. But he's not saying that. And he goes to away games. He went to Atletico away. I'm pretty sure he was in Madrid for the final. But basically, when he's not managing Wigan, if he's got the day off, he'll go and watch the Reds.
He's just a big fan. He's just a fan.
Yeah. So on the null and void thing, Paul says, I find it very sad that some people are talking about making the season null and void. And I think it's disgusting that some people are talking about finishing off the season behind closed doors. I've read people talking about keeping the players in sanitised camps and hotels so that they can finish the season. That would be a disgrace. Football isn't about games behind closed doors. Liverpool fans don't want to hear they've won the league behind closed doors. And trust me, there's no one more desperate than Liverpool fans to see this season finished. He says, if they won it behind closed doors, I think you would find people in this country start to turn against football very quickly. You need to be careful about that. On the Wigan stuff, he then says, one of the problems with the whole debate about what should happen to the season is your thoughts are going to be clouded by what's best for my club. And he says, if I'm honest about it, it would be a totally selfish position to take. Playing out the season would obviously be the right and proper thing to do, but then we're left looking at what can happen. And the longer the time goes on without returning, the more you begin to wonder what will happen. If we're still at home in 3 months, how can we finish the league? Now, there's loads to get into there generally, James, but what are your just general feelings on the whole situation currently?
I mean, similar to everyone really. I've read lots of opinion pieces. We've all read quotes from players and managers, and everybody's got their own take. And it's really hard, I think, to separate someone's opinion from where their club is in a league, what sort of state their club is. It's really, really hard to separate that. So you've got players coming out like Harry Kane came out and said, yeah, we should just declare it null and void. And it's very easy to jump to the conclusion that he's saying that because Tottenham have had a pretty dull, pretty average season. Probably below average, actually. I think they're 8th. So that's really, really, really difficult to take it into in a kind of broader sort of context. For me personally, I've had a lot of time to think about this, as we all have. I mean, there's not a huge amount going on here. I'd carry it on, and I think Neil spoke about this on a show the other week, or a couple of weeks ago. It might have been a written piece about that. Actually, this season's actually quite easy. It's next season that becomes the issue, and I think that's what we have to adhere to. We have to finish this season, and I'm not just saying that as a Liverpool fan. We have to finish this season, even if it goes until October, November. Whatever it takes to finish this season, it has to be finished. And Liverpool are the easiest ones to deal with. We're so far clear now that actually we're easy. It's the teams at the bottom of the divisions that are the ones that you have to think about, and they'll be the ones that are desperate for the season to be finished, and rightly so. If you find yourself a couple of points into the relegation zone, of course you want to finish it, and rightly so. So the problem then becomes next season. How does that work? Maybe next season's a shorter season. Maybe next season works more as a kind of with group stages and things like that. There are options available, but this season has to be completed without question. Otherwise, you start to lose. It devalues football as a whole. How can you get behind something that's just is easy enough to just stop dead like that? I think it's massively important.
I think that's one of the things that Paul says that he would find it disgraceful to play behind closed doors because that's not what football's about. I totally understand that point of view. Equally, though, I would say there's maybe some merit in, and we've talked about it on the Anfield app this week, about if it's the only way to get it done, then maybe that's the way you get it done. And maybe there's something in terms of morale for the country if we could all sit down and watch some football on television and things like that. Obviously, the problem arises in how would you stop people congregating, because it's something you love to share with your mates, you love to be with your mates, and so all of a sudden the idea of social distancing, you can't
do it. You can't play them behind closed doors because these footballers have got families and they've got children and they've got wives, and you can't. if fans can't attend the games, players can't attend the games. It has to be one rule. You can't expect 22 men plus subs and managers and staff to all be in the same space together, unless you say like no tackles and you all have to sit 3 seats apart in the dugout. Like you can't, you can't do that. So it's either we play the season out as normal at some point, and I'm sure there's already provisions in place for that. We've got, luckily, the summer schedule is such that I think it allows it, but you have to play it in front of the fans. The fans are part of that. There is no football without fans is nothing. I mean, it's literally written on a flag.
There's the idea as well, James, that the players, like it or not, and that it was unexpected and all the rest of it, but they are now getting a break essentially. This could be, if you want, and I know it sounds horrible in a way, but their summer.
Yeah.
And so there's the idea starting to come into the conversation as well that you could finish this season in maybe a month or just over if you were playing 2 games a week or thereabouts, sort of World Cup style.
Yeah.
And then pretty much almost immediately start the next one,
and then crack on. Yeah, a week off and crack on. Absolutely. I think that's the most sensible option, I think, for everyone. I mean, of course, the problems probably arise from a fitness point of view the longer this goes on, because there's only so much that these lads can do basically on their own. I mean, I know they're doing yoga on Skype and stuff, and I know they've all got their own fitness stuff, but it's not the same as the drills and the tactical stuff, and it's that side that you would worry. I don't know how it works. I've never been privy to a training session, but I can imagine that if you were to have 3 months off of training, people's fitness levels are going to go down. So I'm sure that's also a concern. But like you say, a little break and then straight into the next season is probably the sensible option, I think.
There's been some other stuff, James, as well about excuse me, about the government's furlough scheme, and obviously Newcastle United and Tottenham have come out and said that they plan to use it for non-playing staff. Also, Bournemouth have told accommodation providers for their youth team players that they won't be paid during the pandemic. Now, there's a couple of things on this. One, it really does not look great, let's be honest with it. You've got people at the very top of the Spurs structure, even in terms of the chairman, is 5 million, 7 million quid a year. You've got a billionaire owner, whatever, and then you're sort of saying this at the other end, and it's a little bit like you've gone early here, boys. You know what I mean? And it does feel a little bit of a sour taste. I think it's got to be the other side of the debate for me is that football is different, and is, if we're all being honest, at a lot of levels and at a lot of clubs, ran terribly. So no one was prepared for this situation, and I think we've got to kind of acknowledge the fact that for many clubs, this will be horrendous financially. I think where the sour taste comes is these are at the top of the ladder, though. These are Premier League clubs, and it's hard to accept that they need to start turning into a government furlough scheme at this stage.
There has to be something in place for the lower league clubs, for the smaller clubs, because without those clubs, the knock-on effect is huge, because it's local talent that's not getting an opportunity, to play for these clubs and to ply their trade in that kind of environment. So the government has to put something in place for these clubs. But to expect people's wages to be topped up by taxpayers' money when you've got owners that are worth billions is I mean, it's just abhorrent, and that there's kind of nowhere to hide from it now. Daniel Levy, coming out and saying, yeah, we're not going to be paying everybody's wages in full and all this kind of stuff. There's nowhere to hide once you've said that. You've pinned your colours to the mast. You are a bad guy. You are a bad owner, and you should be remembered as such when all this is over. Because that's the key thing for me, is that at some point you're going to have to answer to this kind of stuff when all this is over. And if there's people that are losing their jobs, people that can't afford to pay their mortgages, it just leaves a really, really bad taste in the mouth. And so far, you'd love to say that you're proud of the way that Liverpool and Everton have handled this situation, because it's you're talking about billionaires, and it's a drop in the ocean to these owners, and there has to be something in place, and these it's disgusting. It really is awful. It really is.
I mean, in the instance of Newcastle United and Tottenham, they are two. They go down as two of the most profitable clubs in Europe. So it's a little bit like it does not look great, and it is not great for the general picture of football, I don't think. Away from the sort of coronavirus stuff, just wanted to get you on. It's not really Liverpool's business these days. I guess it's more what Klopp said about it. So basically, there's a story out there yesterday about Phil Coutinho. Basically, that he's privately admitting to friends that he made a mistake leaving Liverpool, and that also he'd like to come back. Now. Liverpool have made it perfectly clear that they've got zero interest in bringing him back because of his wages, because of his transfer fee, because of how he left, etc., etc., etc. Where he's found himself now is he's essentially £100 million player or thereabouts, based on what he went for, etc. Barca don't want him, Bayern Munich don't want him. Only a certain number of clubs can afford him. And it's not entirely clear whether any of those clubs want him. And the bit where to say it's relevant to us in terms of what Klopp said. Well, Klopp said in 2017, stay here and they'll end up building a statue in your honour. Go somewhere else, to Barcelona, to Bayern Munich, to Real Madrid, and you'll just be another player. Here, you can be something more. And he was right.
Yeah, I mean, it's you can go back historically. There's been a number of players that have left thinking that the grass is going to be greener, and it just isn't. You can point to Fernando Torres. I mean, that's probably the most famous one. Leaving. Okay, he probably was slightly on the decline, I think, when he left. I think we had his best years, but he went expecting big, much bigger, better things, and probably more money. The only way is down from Liverpool Football Club. It really is. You're never going to find the level of, not just, it's about appreciation. It's about, it boils down to what you're in football for. Of course, you're going to get more money elsewhere. Of course, you're going to get better weather in Spain. Of course, you're going to get the paella and all that good stuff. But like he said, they'll build a fucking statue to you here. You will be a legend. And I think that's probably what hurts more than anything. I mean, I don't know how it works in terms of transfers and money and that side of it. I mean, is there anything in? Could he and his agent come out and say, look, we'll take a massive pay cut to go back to Liverpool, or we'll take or does it boil down to his transfer fee from Barcelona? Is that the issue?
Well, I think that's more the issue in that they're not in a great financial situation, which seems bizarre given the size of the club. Yeah. And obviously, Messi's not particularly happy about that and has been firing a few pot shots. But away from that, but yeah, they need to recoup some of the money. It boils down to being as simple as that. And I think, look, there would be a case if it was purely about the football player to say, oh yeah, Coutinho would be all right, wouldn't he?
Yeah.
He was fantastic for us at his very best, but now, the water under the bridge, the way he left, the money, etc., etc. You just don't see it happening, and it's not the first time that a story's come out there saying, "Oh, he'd love to come back, and he's really sorry now." And that back injury.
Yeah, that's it. It's the back injury business. That's the stuff that really grates with people, isn't it? You're like, come on, mate. You did, you know what I mean? It was clear that you were leaving at the end of the season. You didn't have to throw your toys out the pram that early on. I mean, no need for it, Phil. No need for it. I do have a certain amount of sympathy because you put yourself in his position. It must be truly painful, and he's not a bad guy. Yeah, the way he left was awful, but he must have been watching Liverpool over the past 3 seasons and just watched us climb and get better, and the players improve, and the atmosphere around the club and the trophies now. I mean, Yeah. I mean, it's, you know, I don't. It must have been really tough to watch.
Don't leave Liverpool, lads. I mean, look at Michael Owen, look at Fernando Torres, look at Phil Coutinho. Ignore Luis Suarez, ignore Javier Mascherano, ignore Xabi Alonso.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Don't mention that.
Let's just wrap up as well, mate. I mean, I think what we've been doing on these shows, we try to still talk about football as much as we can. We do inevitably talk about each other and about our whole human experience. I think that's fine as well, personally. So, how are you, mate?
I'm fat and bored. If I'm being honest, it's difficult. I think I'm finding it difficult to sort of fill my time. You know, that's the thing that's really hard. I think for people is, you know, just sat there thinking, well, I'll just go make another cup of tea then. You know, I need something to do, and I'm quite envious of people that can work from home. My wife, you know, she's doing 8 hours a day, and okay, she's sat on her own and it's a bit boring, but she's got stuff to focus on, and it's that. And as you know, I'm an actor, and I write as well, so I've been doing some writing, and that's been cool. But you know, just earning a living and just doing what your vocation is, that's really, really hard for me. That's the stuff I found the hardest. But not to be too negative, I've been cooking a lot. I've been doing a lot of nice cooking, drinking some really fine wine, and I mean, it's not, you know, I'm playing some Call of Duty, so you know.
I mean, listen, if you make a big portion of anything,
I'll leave it outside your door.
I'm only round the corner.
On it, I did a lovely chorizo risotto the other night. Fabulous.
I mean, we are part of the South Liverpool Massive, so you know, if there's anything going, you know, I'm only round the corner. Okay,
I'll leave you a food parcel.
Thanks a lot for coming on, mate, and we shall no doubt see you again soon. That has been Wednesday's Talking Reds. We are going to keep going, as we keep on saying. There is plenty of stuff on the Anfield app right now that you can get stuck into, including an interview with Jose Enrique, who was brilliant, by the way.
I love him.
What a lovely fella.
Love him. Me and him have been chatting on Twitter for years.
Really?
Firing DMs, not to sort of name drop, but he's just the sweetest guy, man. And he loves this club and this city.
Yeah,
really does. And everything that he went through, you know, with his cancer and everything, and the way he dealt with that, and he's a real inspirational guy. Yeah,
he was lovely. I've never met him, never spoke to him before. He popped up on my computer and we had a lovely time. And we had a nice chat about Knowsley Safari Park.
He loves the Tigers.
Yeah, he does. Listen, that has been Talking Reds. Stick with us at the Anfield app. Stay safe, stay well. Up the fucking Reds.